Hello and welcome to this recording. I'm Andeline, Williams-Pretorius. Today I'm speaking to you in my capacity as book writing and publishing coach. I would like to share a few tips with you about the book writing journey, tips that might help you on your journey towards becoming a published author. I'm also the author of a book about writing and publishing a book. This book is titled Let's Get Into Each Other's Shoes to Share and Transfer Skills, Write Your Book. It is available on Amazon.com for those of you who would like to go over there to have a look inside. And this book would really help you along your journey. It has wonderful tips that I also share in there, even more than I'm able to share in this video. But also I share some of my journey and little snippets of stories that would really inspire you. And I say this based on some of the great feedback that I have received for the book. I will share the link to my book in the description underneath this video. Forget everything that you were told about how difficult it was to become a published author, because that was a lie. It's easy. All you need to do, or the only requirement really, is that apart from the passion in your heart, that dream of becoming a published author, you just have to commit to the process and follow through. That's how easy it is. Before you complete that manuscript, or before you even start with it, you have to plan. Know what kind of book it is that you want to write. Know why you want to write a book. And the following snippets of things that I want to share with you, would really help you make that decision about the kind of book that you want to write. Perhaps you have an inspirational life story. You can write a book about that. Maybe you have an interesting hobby. Why not write a book about that? Perhaps God has carried you through an emotional or very challenging period in your life, and you want to document that story to inspire other people and to assist them with overcoming perhaps something similar when they are going through that. That would really make for a wonderful book. Are you a blogger? If you are, did you know that all those blog posts could be turned into a book? How about those inspirational Facebook messages that people like so much? Why not turn all those into a book? Maybe you have an interesting family history that you would like to document to leave behind for future generations. They would certainly thank you for that. Some of you may be knowledgeable about a particular subject matter, and you love, to teach and to share that with other people. Why not put your expert knowledge in a book? That would certainly help turn our world into a better place. Are you a wonderful storyteller and like the idea of writing fiction? You can do that. Maybe you dream of becoming an author of a series of children's books. Perhaps you are just into writing poetry. You are the one to make the decision about the kind of book that you would like to write. Maybe there are even a few other pointers that you could take from the suggestions that I am making or I have made to help you make that final decision about the kind of book that you would like to write. In conclusion to this part, I want to say that it's really about planning. You have to plan your book. Another important part of the planning process is that you have to sit and ask yourself, how much time do I have to write a book? And also, what time of the day would be best suitable to you? Some people are very creative or very energetic and do their best work perhaps early in the morning. I'm one of those people. Some of you maybe midday or throughout the day, and others early evening. You have to decide how much time you actually have to commit to the writing process, and then you have to draw up a schedule that would assist you, with this writing process, and then do your best to keep to the schedule, and also decide in the beginning, okay, I want to be done with this, perhaps the first draft, maybe in 10 days, 20 days, perhaps in a month's time. Whatever the timeline that you are giving yourself, do your best to stick to it. You also have to know whether you are going to write and publish a book to sell it. Are you going to write for commercial purposes or just for your own, for your own records? I mentioned earlier that different kinds of books that some of you may feel like you just want to write a book, perhaps documenting your interesting family history. Ask yourself whether you want to sell the book, because when you want to sell a book, obviously there's a lot more that really needs to go into that book. You have to have a professional editor reading your book, evaluating, doing the editing. You have to have a nice professional cover designed. My book on Amazon, Let's Get Into Each Other's Shoes to Share and Transfer Skills, Write Your Book. I've actually designed that cover myself. Now, I'm not a professional designer, but the reason why I've chosen to do that one myself was to actually show to others how easy it really is. You also have to think about who's going to publish your book. Are you going to approach a national publishing house, or are you going to self-publish? With self-publishing, you obviously have all the control, and with a national publishing house, you are sharing that basically, but the national publisher obviously has more of the control, unless you are a seasoned writer and where you can actually, make more demands, if you will. Now, demand sounds like such a strong word in this instance, but I mean where you can maybe speak to a publisher and they would also be listening to you about your needs and about what's important to you. But often when it's your first book, they are making really the majority of the decisions. But it is a wonderful thing to be published by a national publishing house. But I'm also so grateful for the time that we are living in, where any ordinary person could make a decision and put in the time and become a published author, and they can self-publish if they are struggling to find a national publishing house, for example, or maybe they don't even want to start out with a national publishing house. Maybe they start out and they really just want to write and publish their book themselves. You can do that. Another wonderful thing is obviously Amazon.com, that allows for us ordinary folk to get our books out there. Their platform is really, really a wonderful thing, something that I'm very grateful for. When you write that first draft of your book, remember that you are going to go through a process where you change a few things. You may make a few changes to one thing, to one concept, to one chapter, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't think that everything has to be perfect with this first draft, because it really doesn't. This process you really should also focus on enjoying, and regardless of how many times you changed something or put it this way, put it that way to make it sound better or to improve your manuscript, that is actually a very, very good thing. When you are done with that first rough draft of your manuscript, it is time to read through it, to revise it, and to then make those final changes. And even this step, you may have to go over it again. You may even have to consider giving your manuscript to a family member as part of this process to read through it, or a good friend, just to see whether everything flows nicely or in the correct order. And when that process is done, it is time to complete your final manuscript and to get it to an editor who could read through your manuscript and then look for things, language errors, etc., just to ensure that you really put a professional book out into the marketplace. You have to get an editor to read through your book. Once your editor is done with your manuscript, you have to actually sit down and read through it again, or during this stage get that family member or that friend to also read through it. And then the final step, publishing your book and presenting. Now presenting, basically when your book goes out into the marketplace on sale, and when you share it with others or sell it to your friends, family and others, or at a bookshop. Things to consider for the publishing process include that final appearance of your book, the size of your book, the cover design. Who is going to do that for you? Are you going to do it yourself? Even if you do it yourself, it's important to make sure that it looks presentable. Then your book, you need an ISBN number for your book. The ISBN basically contains the identity of your book. It is also used to produce or create the barcode for your book. Now without a barcode, no official booksellers would be interested in buying your book. So it's important to have a barcode and to get that ISBN. You can read up about that in my book as well, because I share all the information, including how to get it and where to get it. I want to conclude with a bonus tip about how you could actually make your book work for you, how you can generate an income from it. Apart from creating a Facebook page or a website for your book, you can also contact your local newspaper, write to them, tell them about your book, tell them about the benefits that your book would actually make to their readers if they would be exposed to your book. And you basically asking them to do an article, to do a nice write-up about your book. But when you contact them, it's important to not focus too much on you, and on how wonderful you are, even if you are wonderful. Focus on the benefit that their audience would get from being exposed to this book, and they may be impressed and invite you to an interview so that they could compile such a wonderful article. Now this you can also do as far as a radio platform is concerned, or even a television platform. Write to them and do that inquiry. I have also something in my book that outlines that process, even how to structure that initial correspondence where you send that email to an editor or to a producer or to the manager at a particular platform. After my book about empathy, titled In Mekaar se Skoene, was published in November 2011, I was fortunate to get a regular slot on radio, something that I've actually done for 2 years, from January 2012 until March 2014. And during this process, it was a weekly contribution that I've made. I have guided listeners about getting into the shoes of other people and even getting into their own shoes, because this book focuses on all of that book that I published in 2011, and it was published by an official publishing house. So why don't you see whether you could contact a radio station after you have published your book to see whether you could get such a regular slot. And that is another way to perhaps even sell more copies. Another way to make your book work for you is to actually write a follow-up. How about writing a series? But if you plan on writing a series, it's important to make that as part of the planning process. What would number 1 in this particular series be? And what would the title of number 2 in the particular series be? Now, my book, Let's Get Into Each Other's Shoes to Share and Transfer Skills, Write Your Book, is actually part of a series of books that I am planning and am still working on. There's a lot more that I can share with you, but my book really captures everything so well and so thoroughly. So head on over to Amazon.com to have a look, and my book can really help you on your journey, as I mentioned earlier, not just with the different steps and more complete, and in more detail, but also as far as inspiration is concerned. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video was helpful, and I look forward to making many more. And do share it with others. Thank you very much. Goodbye and God bless.